Yeah, they're using military-grade psychological warfare weapons directly on you.
Under the docks, yeah, under the docks. Buried deep, but we're breaking the locks. Footage got clipped, they erased all the shots. They connected dots. Under the docks, under the docks, yeah, under the docks. Under the docks.
Ahoy, mateys! This is Under the Docks with Paranoid American and Uncle Sean, charting through treacherous waves of documentaries to let you know, do they sink or do they swim? Have a doc you want us to review? Man, let me try that one more. Ahoy, mateys! This is Under the Docks with Paranoid American and Uncle Sean, charting through treacherous waves of documentaries to let you know, do they sink or swim? Have a documentary you want us to review? Contact us at paranoidamerican.com or killthemockingbirds.com. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show.
Hey, today we're going to find out why they want us to hate Donald Trump.
And it might be because Iran. So far away. Today we got ShadowGate, a 2020 film directed by Millie Weaver and actually distributed by InfoWars. At the time, Millie Weaver was connected to Alex Jones and the whole InfoWars sector. We thought it's always good to go through these 2020 documentaries every now and then because there was a lot going on. And now that we have time and a scope better to like look back at it, it's interesting the things that come across.
I got to say, too, I don't know how many quote-unquote conspiracy documentaries I was watching in the 2020s. I think I got most of my good fill in up through like the mid-2000s and then like one here and there, but definitely not any Millie Weaver documentaries. I use that word a little bit strained, but this was a new one for me, man. I didn't even know it existed. And I didn't even know about like all the drama between her and InfoWars, and now I guess they're not in the same situation as who is, right? Like we've all moved on quite a bit since then.
And for me, 2020 was an interesting year because, again, like you, I've watched like a lot of Alex Jones and Jordan Maxwell and different documentaries and all this stuff prior to 2020, right? But what I call 2020 is my unretirement year because for a long time when Donald Trump got elected, I was like, all right, it's Donald Trump versus Hillary. I don't care. Like, right? Like it's so obvious and people didn't notice it. I was like, I don't care anymore. And then in 2020, I came out of retirement to help you guys decipher some of this stuff. It didn't work as well because people are still falling for it. But hey, I'm still trying, right? And in this film, I actually got like really deep in all the documentaries of 2020. That's how like the All for Floyd and stuff like that, because people were just popping up on my feed. So I was getting interested to watch this. And at the time, I thought this was a really, really good one where they talk about the intelligence contractors and this quote unquote ShadowGate and pretty much Edward Snowden, NSA whistleblowing, but like to an extreme, right? Times 10 on a different scale. It's about the same range, but new players. Plotting the course. So this documentary follows whistleblower Tory Mayers and Patrick Bergy. So you have to get it out there right away. You pretty much have to take their word for a lot of it, right? They try to trust me, bro. The two whistleblowers, not that whistleblowers are liars or anything, but again, it has some elements to where you have to pay attention. Pretty much the predominant is Tory and Patrick throughout the film telling you, like you said, trust me, bro. And one of their claims is that they argue that post 9/11 surveillance has expanded to digital infrastructure. Hello, like that kind of a little bit obvious. Like if you didn't know that, they're using social media platforms to take your information and use it for nefarious reasons. I don't know if everybody knew that, but cat's out of the bag.
when this documentary started and they brought these two, whistleblowers out, I was like, okay, not like this. It's already a little bit more than I anticipated. I didn't realize we were going to get some interviews and some insider reports. And then after, the documentary kept going and going, I was like, oh, this is the entire documentary. It's just these two people and their word, and they don't have anything beyond these two people.
Except like little
Fox
screenshot
News
of
quotes or,
yeah, or
things that are getting
screenshots from
shared
the
on
internet,
Facebook.
like, where you could type it up yourself, you know what I mean? Like, "Look, you can go to this website," and it also has that. And
Well, I wanna be clear too that I don't think that anything that these 2 people said is incorrect at all. I don't think they would be lying about it. It's just kind of your general sentiment was just like, "Yeah, and?" Like, welcome to what's been going on for my entire lifetime.
so basically one of the major claims is Shadowgate itself. The title is this entity, a secret government program, have you will, Mockingbird, quote unquote, like right? It's Shadowgate. Shadowgate is the new Mockingbird, kind of what they're claiming, not necessarily Mockingbird, but this new version of it.
Well,
And
and Shadowgate, the term, I think that comes from Millie Weaver. Like, no one else
no,
is calling this Shadowgate. That was just the name of the documentary and the thing.
yeah, she coined the term. Is not an actual official government program named Shadowgate. Yeah, that is good to get clear, but you don't know that going in, right? Like if you're going in, you went without knowing a lot about this. I mean, maybe you
Whenever I hear someone has like a something gate, it's like, oh man, like we need to find a new moniker. We need to find a new way to brand conspiracies and scandals than just putting the gate at the end.
okay, and their claim of Shadowgate is that it is an embedded contractor network inside DHS, DOD, NSA, and the CIA that runs psychological operations domestically, avoids oversight by using private corporations. So they claim that all this information, they're like, well, we're not doing anything with it, but these private corporations are making copies. So all the information that they're saving, they're like, we're not using it against you because you're American citizens, but they're selling the information to corporations that are allegedly run by either former heads of state or in the military generals or ex-CIA people. They talk about Brennan a lot, right? Brennan is always easy guy to be like, hey, he's an evil guy, and you're like, I'm on board, bro. You don't have to convince me.
The head of the CIA? Are you kidding me? You think they're doing shadow operation? And there's a spot in this documentary where at least they give you all the ingredients and it's kind of simple. You can simplify what seems like this complex political, technological. No, what happens is that all data, what you're searching, what you're saying, just like anything that you're doing that's being digitized by cameras or microphones, which is pretty much everything that we're doing. Like right now, what we're doing is being digitized, right? So all of that data by default is getting stored by the NSA for at least 72 hours, just so that it's around in case they need to double check it or save it for evidence or whatever. And then they're supposed to get rid of it and never look at it again. And I'm totally sure they're doing that at exactly 72 hours. The other part of this, though, is that during that 72-hour period, they're also allowed to send all this data they're collecting to like private companies and contractors so that those companies can kind of like assist in that process. So now we're trusting the NSA to totally delete everything after 72 hours. And we're trusting everyone downstream from them that they're sending all of our data to, that they're also deleting all of our information within 72 hours. So the whole premise is that, hey, they're not actually doing that. They're not actually deleting it after 72 hours. And that's kind of Shadowgate.
Gambling? You're telling me that they're gambling? Like, of course, like yeah, that's one thing that I felt back. Like, obviously, when I watched this in 2020, I was intrigued because like I knew a lot of the information, but it was what this is the surge of 2020. People that were just kind of like, oh wow, the government is kind of corrupt. Like a lot of us already knew all this stuff, or they were not just corrupt, but they're like, wow, they do dirty. Like it's way dirtier than you thought. And this is a lot of people, quote unquote, where they call waking up or whatever you want to call it. But it's like people didn't really understand that. I'm like, yeah, dude, after 9/11, I thought everybody knew this. So to me, the interesting fact of watching this in 2020 for me was like, dang, a lot of people do not know a lot of this information.
The thing that blows my mind, and I 100% agree, and I think that is good. Someone sees something like this, and they're like, "What do you mean I can't trust the government? What do you mean that they say one thing and doing a like, okay, that like, and once they catch up, that's great. It's just so weird that all of that in this documentary gets framed as and they're doing it to do a coup on Donald Trump, and all of this is just to take him down. You know what I mean? And it's such a weird way because they even start getting into they want to abolish the police, and all I'm hearing in my mind is the state is trying to get rid of the state. Like we need to help the state, not get rid of the state. You know what I mean? At a certain point, it stops making sense to me, which is this like pro-Trump Alex Jones era where he's like on the campaign trail for doing like a president, you know?
And just a little side note, I never thought I would see that in my lifetime that Alex Jones is like not telling you to vote for, but actually on the campaign trail and has the president's ear. That always threw me off. I'm like, come on, Jones, man. We thought we were against the state. Now he's like, it's all good, man. Yeah.
You know what it is? I'm starting to realize too, Alex Jones and InfoWars and all that stuff. Like they were just one of the only outlets where you could get like these really fringe theories, but that were legitimately backed up by crazy things going on. Like, yeah, of course he made wild hyperbolic claims, but nobody else was reporting on these very real AP articles and Reuters articles. That's all he did is he just read through all the AP and Reuters articles and anything that sounded kind of crazy he just repeated it, and no one else was doing what he was doing. And after you do that for a decade or two, it's almost like people think that you're an expert in all these topics. It's like, nah, you just know how to pick out crazy headlines and connect some dots and scream a little bit. So, like, over time, I think my impression of what Alex Jones was doing at the time, and especially since then, is just like, all right, he just happened to find like a nice gap in the market and had the right voice for it, but he's not necessarily the guy you want to like get your news and your subjective analysis from. And I'll just leave it at that to be subtle.
I would agree. And then he's just really great at going off the cuff. Like you said, you can give him probably like 20, 30 headlines and he's like, I got this, right? On the fly. That's what I give him credit for. He's good at just on the fly going, yep, I'm going to start connecting this and this, but he's not an expert. It's not like someone that has dive deep into a lot of these subjects. He knows about it from just existing through it. And I do like, that's why I think what's good about what we do is like, I did enjoy going back to the old police state Alex though. I like that Alex the best.
Dude, Alex like rushing up on actual cops during an active, training operation and just being like, so how's it feel working for the New World Order? You know, like that's the classic man on the street style Alex Jones that I think that he needed to have not really abandoned, because as soon as he got big enough and InfoWars became bigger than Alex Jones even became, that's when all of this kind of started. And then you get Millie Weaver as the new man on the street representing this kind of, octopus of InfoWars.
Except she kind of veers away from man on the street, and maybe because 2020 maybe was a little bit more difficult. But this whole thing focuses on Patrick and Tori throughout the thing, and they're telling their stories that, Tori was ex-naval intelligence and Patrick ex-military intelligence.
We're going to break all that down for sure.
You know what I mean? They talk about some of the programs. They were like the PSYOP units and the missile units and special operation commands and post 9/11 cyber expansion, which a lot of us already knew. Like, I mean, after 9/11, this stuff was all unrolled. And then even with Snowden, right? Snowden talking about NSA spying on us. They kind of briefly go over it. It's like Snowden for right wingers. That's what I would probably say about ShadowGate, right? It's the Snowden era, but focused primarily on they're only going after us, right? Like this side of the state. They're not actually going, hey, this is some of the information is really important. We kind of probably didn't know it, but we know psychological operations are being set upon us for all the time. Like they start talking about the Section 702 and premise providing the data pipeline, where FISA Section 702 in 2008, which is connected to the Edward Snowden 2013 surveillance program of Primus, and the mass data collection infrastructure makes psychological targeting possible. So it's not necessarily they're proving anything. they're just like pushing it back out there that it still exists, which was probably good at this time because there was a lot of people in 2020 that were willing to listen to this information. That's the only, to me, the underlining moment that is good at it for.
I think part of the problem here though is that you'll get these really like like for example, here's how it gets framed in the documentary where Millie's like, so what you're saying is there's military grade psychological warfare weapons being directed, like the way that she frames that. Here's what's actually happening though. It's really kind of simple. So you've got Tori, and Tori was a Navy linguist. So a linguist in the Navy is essentially someone that translates. So she could have just been the lady that knows how to speak Spanish in the office. And they make it sound really, it's called like a cryptologic technician interoperative. You know what I mean? Like they make it sound fancy, but really it's like she's the one that knows how to speak Arabic. She's the one that knows how to speak Spanish. And what she's describing is this psyop program that's going on. What it means is they're collecting information, and then she becomes an expert in whatever language and culture, and like she calls it localization. And localization is just meaning like, what does this phrase or this behavior mean in this town or in this city at this time? Because it might be different if you're talking about different state or a different country, if someone acts a certain way or says a certain thing. So she's kind of like a glorified translator, and that they can kind of tell what people are saying and how they're acting and use it against them. Like, okay, yeah, that's a casino operator working the security camera is technically what she's doing at this level. And then they've got the guy, Patrick Berge, and he's in cybersecurity for the Army. When you have to, your internet goes out and you got to call Spectrum, and the Spectrum guy comes over and he like runs some tests and he's got like some stuff in the truck and he knows how to use it. I mean, not to like glorify what Patrick Berge did. That's kind of him. He's like the Spectrum guy, except he probably has more expensive tools and he's worked on top secret compounds. But essentially, he's making Wi-Fi signals work again and he's connecting stuff, right? So these are like the two whistleblowers. You've got a translator and you've got a Spectrum guy, and they're kind of, and I'm saying it this way to be like under hyperbolic just because of how it's like, this guy is a psyop, tech, like cybersecurity technician. Like, all right, let's find out what's the actual career code. So there's a lot of bit of like dressing up in here to make it sound like you're getting this explosive insider CIA top secret, knowledge, when really it's like, here's two people that worked for the military among millions of others that work for the military and their opinions on Trump.
It kind of reminds me of Half Baked when he's like, I'm a custodian or a janitor if you want to be a dick about it, right? Like you can dress up any title you want. And it happens all the time. I mean, even in regular workspaces where you're like, he's a shipping specialist, like, right? And you're like, yeah, I just ship stuff. Like, you know what I mean? It's nothing crazy. Our people love these fancy titles. So I agree. It kind of like is a little misleading to somebody that may not know. They're like, oh, I'm getting an expert on this. And you're like, well, he just kind of worked there, right? And he's telling his opinion. And from Patrick's perspective, you could kind of get it like, is he scorned, right? Like, is he like worked for a company that maybe they did not have the best, falling out, or like, hey, I'm leaving this company. Like I work at companies where I'm like, I hate this company, I'm leaving. And if you ask me in an interview about them, I'll be like, yeah, they're a piece of crap, man. Like I might make up things, right? Oh, they're embezzling, bro. Like I know for sure, like even if I don't know. So some of it, again, I'm not trying to undermine what they say either, but some of it does kind of give you scorned worker vibes.
And honestly, like again, I don't disagree with a single thing that either one of them said. I'm just of the pretty strong opinion that we're not getting any new information from either of these two whistleblowers. They just worked at a company 20 years ago and like, oh yeah, it sucked back then, and yeah, I'm sure that those guys were assholes. That's kind of a little bit of what you get, and there's not any smoking gun evidence. A lot of it, I think, is just to do that appeal to authority sort of logical fallacy where it's like, we got insiders, therefore anything this documentary says must be more accurate had they not been in it, when really that's not really the case.
And they kind of break down more like it's one of those documentaries where it's just like, this guy's connected to this. General James Jones is connected to Patrick, and Patrick's connected to Brennan, and like it kind of like brings it all together. They talk about some of the companies like Dynology Corporation, Clear Force, CGI Group, and how they're by defense contract. Like defense contractors are former generals. That's like kind of unfortunately a very common thing. Like most people, these high ranking generals that are like at the defense department usually go to Raytheon, usually go to Lockheed Martin and other defense contractors. And now the new defense system is psychological warfare via social media, and data is a new weapon. So the film highlights all these companies. It's nothing that we don't know. It's just a new form of technology that is being used against us. Instead of just like, hey, we're burning books, we're actually just copying your profiles and spying on everything you're doing, which has been forever. But now we have gave them access to this. And they could have, to me, went a little bit more detailed, but the primary focus is probably one of the last claims. And it's not just a claim, but their main theme is basically this is a coup d'etat against Donald Trump that was orchestrated by the Obama administration. That is pretty much the meat and potatoes of all this.
I feel a little bit about like this is if someone were to approach you and they spitting facts. Every single thing they say, you're like, hell yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah, we should lower tax. Yeah, we should like end all these horrible programs. And then they're like, and that's why you should join my cult and sell all your goods and you're just like, hold on a minute. Like I was with you all the way up until the very end where you're like, and now this is what we should do about it. So it has that like sort of a premise to it. I think that there's plenty of silver lining in it because we get a lot of real important information. It just gets weirdly funneled into like, and therefore, and you're like, what? Like, why does this mean? And therefore, they're trying to throw a coup on Donald Trump. Or there's some other claims too. She claims that the Obama phone was part of this program and that it was essentially all these people had opted in to take government phones, that all that data was then being farmed by private industry. And then the private industry was figuring out how to emotionally target the people that were using these phones and send them specific political messaging or like whatever, just get them to vote a certain way. I don't know, man. I don't know if once you gave the Obama phones out, I don't know if you had to like feed the Obama phone users a psyop operation just to get them to vote for Obama over Donald Trump or whatever the antithesis would have been for Obama, right? So like again, it's a lot of yes, I agree they're doing these programs. Yes, it's being funneled to private industry and it shouldn't be. But now like for what ends? Oh, it's just to defeat Trump. And if Trump were in charge, none of this would have been going on. Like private industry and the NSA, like he'd get in there and he'd end all that. He'd be draining the swamp. That's kind of like the ... that doesn't get spoken.
Yeah, because they even like have like a recorded because Tori also has a podcast, and just to be super transparent and everything, and she's talking to to Stone, right? Roger Stone. I was almost gonna say his name wrong. Roger Stone's on there claiming like, yeah, you're right, man. Of course, he's political mastermind trying to get Donald Trump reelected at this time, right? They're having a campaign, and that's where they lose me because I'm like, I'm with you too. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. And then instead of saying like, hey, they're doing this to us, it like changes and shifts the narrative of like, yeah, it's only because of Trump, man, and Trump will save you. And I'm like, all right, you lost me, man. Now you're telling me to go back to the state, but just your red team part of the state. You're like, the blue team is terrible, but the red team's pretty good, man. They're here to help you. They're not into corporations. They're not into war. And I would love to revisit this after now, everything that's going on, and be like, hey, so what do you think about that, right? Like, yeah, it's true what's going on, but it's not in that narrative that you painted it in. And I will say this. The funny thing to me is when they show the Obama phone like segment, because there's a lady that got my Obama, right? They're using that media tactic that they always do, right? When they go into a line of people that are going to vote for Trump, they go find the biggest, loudest idiot. And I thought it was funny that they did the same thing. And it's like, well, you're kind of using the same tactics that you're supposedly against.
Yeah, they're using military grade psychological warfare weapons directly on you.
Hidden treasures and overboard moments. I think some of the hidden treasures for me are for people that are not familiar with these topics. That's the only really hidden treasure for me. I'm like, if your mom, your grandma, or like your uncle, or people that were forever military industrial complex Bush people, like maybe that this will like be like, okay, I can digest some of it. There is some information that's good for people that are unfamiliar, but I don't think there's any like for me personally, except like for like comedy relief, like that lady screaming about the Obama phone was like a hidden gem for me, but that was just like my own personal. That's hilarious, right? Like Obama phone, like she's just going crazy about it. But other than that, there's nothing for me that's tangible that I'm like, oh, this is a hidden treasure that I can't believe I watched this.
I think the hidden treasure for me is just that there was a decently simplified explanation of the entire Edward Snowden and Section 702 NSA. It sounds and it can get so complicated. And part of that too, I think, is because the mainstream media, but like part of that's because they can so easily milk that topic for months by just keep talking about it over and over. It's so simple. The government records everything you do and say for 72 hours. It's on paper. This is that Section 702. Like the NSA is allowed to do this for security reasons. But as part of that process, they farm that crap out, man. They send it off to, lowest paying bidder, or, lowest contractor that's willing to do it for the least amount of money. They farm that stuff out. And guess what? Some of that data gets leaked. It makes it back into the private industry. And then the conspiracy, the whole ShadowGate of this is that, and the government that's hiring those private contractors, they know that those private contractors aren't going to delete the data. Like, of course, bro. It's like, it's their company. It's their homeboy's company. So they're intentionally using this gap between the government and private industry so that the government can continue to do government things and then be like, oh, well, we're just using data given it to us from the private industry. So like, and then if the private industry gets held accountable, they can tactically just claim bankruptcy, or the government can step back in and say, this is a national security concern. You can't really look into this further. So it's this loophole that continues to exist. I think that's the silver lining, is that even if you're like getting all hyped up about Obama phones and stuff, you might still get a decent understanding of all of this, and you don't have to read all of the long ass Edward Snowden articles and books. Like that's the premise.
And for me, overboard is they don't explain the detail. Like they kind of connect dots where it's like, did you know that a former general, a former CIA, a former NSA guy is in the private industry still collecting your data and they give it to the government? You're like, well, yeah, man. Like this is not anything new. So again, I'm looking at it through my eyes of where I'm like, okay, we know this. There's no new information. It's good for someone that doesn't know, but then the way that you kind of portray it as it's only against Donald Trump really rubs me the wrong way. And another overboard moment that really doesn't have to do with the film, but me knowing at the time. So as the film was getting released, they're like, Millie Weaver is getting arrested. And they're like, oh my God, she's getting arrested for ShadowGate and all this. And it was this hype around it. Like, she even played into it and it's like on her cell phone, like, I don't even know why they're here. What are they doing here? So it fed into, which, hey, marketing ploy, I get it. I'm not hating on it, right? You got to do what you got to do. But people were actually thinking she was arrested for ShadowGate, and she was not. It had to do with the dispute with, I think, either her mother-in-law or her mom, like, and she took a phone, and then she, like, just family problems. And that's what it turned out to be. But for 24 to 48 hours, people are like, they're silencing her. That to me was the overboard moment because they connected it to the film. So anybody that it gave hype to the film, where people are like, these whistleblowers are all going to go get killed and arrested. And really only Millie Weaver got arrested. And then it turns out it had nothing to do with ShadowGate whatsoever.
Well, that's what ShadowGate wants you to think, is that it had nothing to do with that. It was honestly like a whole career assassination ploy. And I think the overboard is two or threefold for me. But like one of those is that it's presented in, like, I have a few notes that kept coming up, but I was watching this. It's like, is this a school book report? Because she'll list something. It's like, like Brennan and like psychological warfare operations and so on and so forth. And it's just like that's the filler that you add in for, like, okay, I'm going to move on to this next section now. The biggest one for me, the biggest overboard and criticism is it kind of feels like she just took existing research, didn't really get more depth, didn't really add a lot of clarity. She did a decent job of, again, organizing it in a way that you understand what could be a complicated program. But it feels a little bit like your friends like, yo, check out this track I just made. And it's just like it's an existing song you've heard a million times before, but then they just add like brr, 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 yo, yo, yo. Like they just add some like overdubbing to it. And they're trying to present it like, hey, look, I recorded this. And you're like, bro, I've heard this song. This is a song on the radio right now. You just kind of put a few effects on it. And this isn't even a remix, you just kind of like added some things to it. I get a really strong vibe from this quote unquote documentary. Again, it's like, hey, have you been watching Fox for the last 3 months? Well, here's all of the highlight clips with Millie Weaver inserting herself in between it and 2 whistleblowers. And you don't really get anything beyond that.
And one highlight that really kind of irked me through the film, like it's well put together as far as editing, but the music, man, constant of this like eerie, like, oh my gosh, we're under, like, that annoys me. Like I like a good soundtrack, but you use the same music throughout it, and it's all this eerie, creepy, so you can get locked in. Like, oh my gosh, I get the effect that it's trying to give. It just annoyed me and bothered me throughout the film.
So how did you feel about it the first time you saw it versus now? Like, is it dramatically different or just like a little bit different?
It's not dramatic, but it is different because I kind of like watching and I was like, dang, this is good to get out there. And I was already like, how I think of Trump or all politicians for that matter, the state. I didn't like that part of it, but I hate it more now. You know what I mean?
So this is the first time I'd seen it. I didn't get to see it when it came out. I do got to say, maybe one extra little silver lining, hidden treasure. This, if you found out that your aunt or your mom or like your cousin or whatever, if you found out that they're going hard and watching InfoWars and they're getting into the QAnon and like everyone's trying to come after Donald Trump and they're watching all this content, this is probably one of the better, more factual InfoWars 2020 documentary rabbit holes you can go down that still holds true. You know what I mean? That like I don't know a better word than like nothing burger. I hate that word because it's got this like weird, but like it's kind of that. Like this documentary, it doesn't claim something like interdimensional beings are like eating babies or anything like that. It's just like, hey, the NSA is stealing your data, giving it to private industry, and then allowing them to keep it and using it as a loophole. 100% correct. I don't think that's ever going to be false, which might be kind of unique in the InfoWars library, right? For it to like hold strong that much, even though it was politically charged.
It's that time. Sink or swim?
Sink. That's it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I gave it again. If you're gonna have to watch an InfoWars documentary, post 9/11, like post Alex Jones stepping back and delegating it to all the new waves, this is probably not one that's gonna rot your brain as much. It's not gonna radicalize you as much. But I don't know. I don't think it's really worth. You can go and read an article about how this section 702 for NSA worked and maybe some like Edward Snowden recaps.
And it's information that's already given out, that's kind of recycled. They don't even explore further or try to connect this information to like the MK Ultra programs or Mockingbird. Like
they connected to Obama phone. That's what they connected.
That's it. So for me, it's a sink as well. Like it just doesn't have the feel of nothing new, no new information, the same recycled stuff, and you're not even trying to connect it because for me, if you use all this information and you're like, they're doing this, and I think it's connected to an old program or it's none of that. It's just the same old. We're like, yeah, they're stealing our information. It's nothing new. And you know who will not steal your information? Paranoid American. If you go to paranoidamerican.com, he may have some data. He's trying not to get it to the NSA, but there's not much he could do it. But maybe if you buy a couple shirts, he can talk to them and, grease those wheels a bit. So go to paranoidamerican.com, go to killthemockingbirds.com. This is another episode. Until our next voyage, Under the Docks, sink or swim.
got clipped, they erase all the shots. Once they connect the dots, under the docks, under the docks, yeah, under the docks. Yeah, under the docks.
Just buy something. Just buy something.
From paranoid American.
Just buy something. Just buy something.
From paranoid American. Get some merch, buy some art. Click that link, add to cart. Say it back, need that print. Nod your head, give consent. Buy a comic, 3 or 4. Think this thought, I want more. Buy a sticker from the store. Think this thought, I want more.
Just buy something. Just buy something.
From paranoid American.
Just buy something. Just buy something.
From paranoid American.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane. Paper, the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Matters not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.